Okay, I've decided to make a video. I always tinker with cars and manage to kind of figure things out, and so someone told me how to make videos and put them on. Maybe it can help somebody else out there that's having the same type of issue. So today, sorry, didn't mean to take a picture of my feet. Today what I'm doing is I've got this, it's a 2005 Buick Terraza. It's got a cooling fan thing. I've had this happen in the past. Where one of the fans will work and one of them doesn't. For this particular thing, I actually got you can see this right, I don't know if you can see that or not, I'll get it in the light. This is it's not focusing. Anyways, this is basically, it's a blade fuse tap. You can insert it into fuses and it'll make it into something else. It's 85606, I just bought it at AutoZone, not a big deal. And then I bought some 10 gauge wire because that's what my fan has on it. And it's the same thing, I just bought it at AutoZone, so it's just nothing fancy, just a 10 gauge wire. The only things that I needed on it was a pair of wire strippers, and that's pretty much it. I got a crimp fitting right here. It's on the back side. What basically happens on these is, this particular one, I've already checked a lot of stuff on it, because they actually only have a few things. They've got some relays in our fuse box, which is right here, and they've got the fuses themselves. All that stuff checked out as in good. And then I checked my fans. You can do that pretty simply by taking the connector apart. This particular one's right here. You'll have a hot side. On the one side, you're going to have a hot side. So this would be for the cooling fan. This side over here, these two are actually for the AC fan when it turns on. It's actually called an auxiliary fan, but it basically turns on when the AC comes on to cool the car down. So you can actually take a hot lead. On this particular one, the hot's on this side and the negative is on that side, and you can just touch those two wires with a hot and a negative. It'll kick the fan on if it's good, it won't kick it on if it's bad. Same thing on this side. So I've already traced that. I know which wire's hot, which one's negative, and that's already been done. So what I did is on the fan side, I didn't want to cut into my wiring harness. I suppose you could do it on this side too, but I just didn't want to cut into my wiring harness. I've put in a crimp fitting here that makes it so you can do inline without having to cut a lot of wires up. And then I've capped it off on this side. I didn't want to actually just tie into the line after I thought about it, because if for some reason the power did come back on, that would trip my fuse and blow the circuit, so I didn't want to have any problems, so I just cut it. And then in the future, you know, if I replace the fan and decide to replace the sensor that's bad, the sensor on this one's actually a temperature sensor, and it's on the back side of the motor, which is somewhere back in there, which is the reason why I'm not replacing it. This is just a quick fix. I am in no way a mechanic. This is just something that I did myself because it's been useful. So if you're having a problem where one of your fans, that's what this one was, my auxiliary fan on that side was working and this one was not going, which means that my something in that circuit is bad. So what I've done is I've actually run a hot lead. The negative's going to stay the same, but I ran a hot lead all the way through under my wiring harness. Actually can't use an existing hole on the side of my fuse block with a pigtail up, and then that little fuse relay is coming in right here. You can actually snap it in. So this will actually go and it connects right there. And I put this on, there's a hot side. On these fuses there's a hot side and a not hot side. You've got to find one that works with your keyed switch, otherwise it'll run all the time. This side over here is my neutral side. So this is constant, this is neutral. And that's important because if the breaker does trip, this is the original fuse, by the way, that goes into that fan. If the fuse does trip, it'll blow that fuse and then there's no power going here. So it's actually going to use its own protection. I've just bypassed that switch back in there. So I don't know if this is going to help anybody out, but basically that's what I did. Just kind of went into this, drove it down through. I had to put a little bit of a notch in the side right here for the wire to go through so I didn't cut through my wire, and the same thing on the top, and then I've just run it along through here so it'll tie into my fan. and it works perfectly. As soon as I turn the key on, the fan kicks on. It will not turn on and off with the temperature. It is just always on, so you do need to know that. So as soon as the car's on, the fan's on, but for the most part that doesn't really hurt anything. I do live in the northern hemisphere here, so we'll see what that does in the winter time. See if I've got to adjust that accordingly, and one of these days I may have to break down and fix that sensor. But this is a good, quick, cheap, easy temporary fix. Like I said, I've used I think I spent about $10 total on everything. So, and most of that was the wire, because this 10 gauge wire is a little bit expensive. But just make sure you tie your wire up pretty good so it's out of the way. You know, it doesn't get caught in any of the fans or any of the moving components, and make sure when you're actually moving your wire through that you keep that disconnected, even though it's not hot right now, and it wouldn't be hot if it was connected. You just don't want to accidentally arc something and hurt something in the system. So hopefully this will help somebody else out in the future. I'm going to try and put in some more of my videos when I have little projects like this. Thanks for watching.